Here's how I use the Johnny.Decimal system to manage my own tasks and projects. And this is how I've managed my personal life and my business for at least a year now. Now, I've got at last count about 300 outstanding tasks in things, which you'll see in my system in a minute, and a whole bunch of repeating stuff. And I can honestly say, as someone who's been into productivity for like 25 plus years, I bought the first Palm Pilot. I love that thing. When it came out in 1997, I read GTD when it came out. I used to read Merlin's 43 Folders site when it came out. I've got an OmniFocus version 1 license from 2010. I'm into this, right? I've never felt this organized in my entire life. I haven't missed a task, a to-do, in a year. And more than that, I haven't been surprised or shocked or stressed by a task in over a year. And I'm not telling you that I'm getting all this stuff done. I've got 300 outstanding tasks. But I don't think it's possible to get everything done that you put in your task system, because a lot of that stuff is just, it's hopes and dreams. You might not plausibly think you're ever going to do it. That shouldn't stop you putting it in there. The point of the system I've developed is what I'm calling comfortable awareness. I have this comfortable awareness of everything that I could and should and want to do. And here's how I do that. This can only be an overview. I'm going to smash through it pretty quickly. Many of the concepts I'm going to talk about here build on this corpus of productivity and knowledge management that's been going on for 25 years, longer, a lot longer. And so when I get to those concepts, I'll just skip through them quickly. As always, if you need any more help, just hit me up directly or let me know in the comments or whatever. All right, fundamental concept number one is the idea of a universal inbox. This is a trusted place where you can put a task and you will know with absolute certainty that you're going to get to it later. For me, that's things. I have things on my Mac where I can get to it using the Control Space keyboard shortcut, and that will pop up the little quick entry box from wherever I am. I've got it on my phone where it's in the dock, and on your phone you can long press the icon there and you'll get an add entry there, and that goes to your inbox. I've got it set up so I can forward it an email from my email, so I can send it a task from there. And what's the other one? Oh, I've got it set up to import from Reminders, the Apple Reminders app, which I don't use, but that's helpful because then I can still say, hey, Dingus, to the voice assistant, hey, Dingus, remind me to feed the chickens. That will go into Reminders, and the next time I open things will pull that in from Reminders. And importantly, it moves it in from Reminders, so I only have one place to look. I don't also have to check over in Reminders. I have tried in the past having an inbox in my notes, in my JDEX, Obsidian, and I think that is doomed to failure. I was putting tasks as words in a text file and expecting that I would get to them again, and I never did. If it's an actionable task, it can only be in your task manager, and for me, that's things. On that topic, just a quick aside, please use a dedicated task manager. Obsidian is a miracle of an app and it does so much, but it isn't a task manager, and it was never designed to be one, and it's not what it's good at. And use a task manager, whichever one you prefer. I think Things is the best. Use a task manager for tasks. Use apps for the things they are designed. Otherwise, you're always trying to shoehorn something in and you're never going to get the best out of it. It's not a good way to be. So at its heart, Johnny.Decimal is about categories of things. Just to reiterate the structure, you have areas which contain categories, and categories contain IDs. So areas really are just folders of categories. And then the IDs that are contained within categories are really quite granular. When you're thinking at this level of things to do, you only need to be thinking of the level of a category, because this is the idea of like putting yourself in a state of mind, as we'll see in a minute. You're putting yourself in the state of mind of like technology or customers or marketing, categories of things. So fundamental concept 2 in my system is that tasks are no different here. Why would they be? And so we set our task manager up with the same categories as our system. And in things, I use the notion of a things project, which is a container of tasks, and they mirror my Johnny.Decimal system. And that harks to one of the core concepts of Johnny.Decimal, which is not just about numbers, it's about consistency, and it's about having a familiar system everywhere you look. And so here I've got a familiar system in my JDEX, which is Obsidian, in my file system, and in my Notes app. They all look the same, and so you've got less mental context switching when you're moving between these places. All right, fundamental concept number 3 is that the realization that any level of neglect of this system will result in failure and is disastrous, because who wants to be reminded of all of this stuff to do, right? It is a chore. I never said that I wanted to do all of this stuff. Simply that the realization that I'm a grown adult who runs a business and I therefore just have to do this stuff, right? So that is an important realization. It's not worth denying to yourself. But we therefore have to plan for it, because if you dread your system and if you let it get messy and if you neglect it at all, you're going to stop going there. And the moment you stop going there, the moment you let things pile up, the moment you dread the notion, then you're finished. That is a catastrophic failure. And so this system that we develop must be easy, one, and it must be forgiving. And here's how I do that. So every weekday morning, give or take, like I said, there's a bit of forgiveness here. This is what I do, and this takes genuinely less than 10 minutes once you're in the rhythm. So the first job is to clear your inbox of stuff that you've thrown in there over the last 24 hours. And all you have to do at this point is to move these tasks a little bit closer to home. I'm not asking you to do them yet. I'm not even asking you to really properly organize them yet. What I'm saying is get them out of this inbox, because if the inbox builds up, that's daunting and you'll stop coming back here. And just throw them over to one of these categories. This is very low friction because you're making a very high level decision. And if you get it wrong, there's an opportunity, I'll show you, to fix it later. While you're doing this, now's your opportunity. It can be, especially if you've read something out to your iPhone, your voice assistant, or you've scribbled a quick note. If it doesn't make sense, if it's not very clear, you might not see this thing again for a few days. So now's your opportunity just to make sure that future you actually understands what you meant and that it's meaningful and not garbage. And there's a well-worn rule here, is that if you find yourself with a task that would take 2 minutes or less, don't go filing it, just get that thing done. But otherwise, that's it. Your job here is to move things out of your inbox and into a category, and that's all. That's it. Very, very quick. Because now, depending on the day of the week, the next task is to have a deeper look into each one of these categories. And it just so happens, it's a happy accident, that there are 5 categories in the Life Admin system, and there are 5 categories in most of the areas of the small business system. And so what we do is we look at each one on a day of the week, depending on the last number of the category. So Monday's 11, Tuesday is 12, and the trick is you only look at one of them on each day of the week. You only review category 11 on Monday, and you'll get to category 14 on Thursday. Now, there is an assumption here that when you have put something here from your inbox, that it isn't something truly urgent that will cause a disaster if you don't do it in the next couple of hours or day, because what we're doing here is putting things in these categories and you might not see them for a week. So that's part of the system that you need to understand. Now, I'm giving you this like 6-7 minute video, right? And obviously there is more to this process than I can jam in this video, which is why I spent 2 months meticulously planning and recording this as a course. It ended up being 4 hours. I'm really very proud of it. It's very calm and methodical, and I show you in great detail exactly what I'm doing through this whole process, and you can walk through setting it up in your own life. And the course includes a copy of the Life Admin system because you should use it as the base for all of this. So there's that and more at Johnny.Decimal University. There is a link below. Sales pitch over. All right, back to this. So we're in category review, and let's say it's Monday. What you're doing is you're looking at this category, making sure everything makes sense, assigning dates to things where they need to be assigned. We'll touch on that in just a second. That's really important. And this is your opportunity. Remember, I said you get a chance to correct mistakes. So here's the thing in category 11. That really doesn't feel like it belongs in category 11. It feels like it belongs in category 14. So when you're reviewing this category, just like you did with the inbox, if there's something that shouldn't be here, you're free to just get rid of it. Move it to category 14 and you'll deal with it on Thursday. As a reminder, we're not trying to do any of this stuff yet, other than those 2-minute tasks that you shouldn't bother filing, you should just go and do. We're just making sure that it's neat and that we're aware of it all, and crucially that things that need a date have a date. Because here's the thing, I've developed this system and it doesn't use the notion of a priority. Well, I talk about priorities in the course, but you'll see none of these tasks have a priority. Things doesn't even have a feature for priorities, although you could use tags for that if you want to. But none of my tasks are flagged as important or urgent or anything like that. That isn't a decision you ever have to make, because I think it's mostly arbitrary anyway. You decide something feels important, and then when it comes round, you've changed your mind, right? You're just in a different mood, and now it isn't important. But now previously you said it was important, and so you feel obliged to do it. That's not how it works. I exclusively use dates to decide when things need to be done. And here's fundamental concept 4 is that dates exclusively drive the priority of your tasks. And you can very broadly, you can put a 50-50 split down the middle of your tasks. On one side are the things that, if not done before some date, will make your life worse. Right? Picture the graph of your life, and if you don't do these things before this date, things will get worse. You have to feed those chickens, you have to pay that credit card bill, and if you don't book that flight on time, you're not going to go on holiday, right? You just have to do these things, and you know you do, and I will not hear your excuses. You're an adult. You just have to do these things. And so on any given day, the important thing is that there can only be a small handful of these things. There can't be 40 of them. If there are 40 of these things in your system, you have not been realistic with yourself, because that makes them manageable. That's how you get to these things and understand you just have to do them, and you just go off and do them. Because then the other side is everything else. And the everything else are the things that if you do them, because to be clear, they're optional, if you do them, your life gets better. Your life's graph goes up. And these are all sorts of things. This is honestly the majority of your stuff, right? I think it's probably something like a 20-80 split between the stuff that you really have to do, and you know you have to do, you have to pay that credit card bill, and all of the other stuff. I've got a bunch of techniques to try and help you do that other stuff. For example, scheduling time to be a better human, and I've already spoken about that in one video, and there'll be a link to that below. Okay, so we've done all these reviews. Like I said, that takes about 10 minutes once you're in the groove. And now we're in the following situation where you get to the point where you're actually going to start doing some of this stuff. And tasks whose date has come around end up in today in things. If you have another task manager, you're going to have to figure out how this works. Things puts them in today for you, and it's why I recommend it. It's really great software. And so you need to do these things today. These are things that previous you has decided have an actual date. To be crystal clear, there's no desire here. You have to do them before a date or your life will get measurably worse. And so they've come into today. And so that's your starting list for the day. Now, then there's all this other stuff. There's all these other things scattered through your system, which once you've had a look at the day and you've planned it out and you've realized how much you have to do, and you have to do these things, and you've got other appointments and you have to go to work and pick the kids up and so on, you then are free to find time for some of these other things. And a really nice technique here is not to try and do everything all at once, right? That's impossible. But to try and spread these things out through the week so that on a Monday, you look at things from category 11 and you pick some of those things out and you try and move those forward in life. Tuesday 12, Thursday 14, and so on. And then you mark them as today in things. You can just put things in today yourself. And that builds this today view as your actual realistic view of the things you have to and have chosen to do today. That's really it for tasks, because here's fundamental concept number 5, which is that there is a split between tasks and projects. I have called the course Task and Project Management very deliberately. They're very different things. Tasks are one-offs, typically things that you can sit down and just get done and tick off within, let's say, half an hour. Feed the chicken, pay the bill, book a flight, whatever. Projects are longer things. They are things that drive your life forward, and they're a sequence of tasks. You can't just sit and finish a project. Rebuild the kitchen is a project. Learn to play the piano is a project. So we need to handle them differently. Now, this is a huge topic that I'm actually still exploring myself, and so we're out of time here. I'm just about to, within the next couple of months, I've been working on this for the last 6 months since I released the course, and I'm just about to release probably another hour's worth of video, record and release, showing you in great detail how I manage projects here. It's how me and Lucy have been doing it for 6 months, and it's working really well. All updates to the course are free forever. There's no subscriptions. That is at JDU, and there's a link below. I hope you found that somewhat useful. Obviously, there's only so much I can fit into a quick video, but let me know if anything there wasn't clear.